So now let's talk about Unit 3. Unit 3 is the cell communication unit. Now let's look at a Unit 3 review guide first. As I've said in the previous two units, the most important thing you can do is look over the multiple choice questions from the released exams, get that document from your teacher, and go through every available question. That's the best thing you can do to prepare for this AP exam. Next, you need to look at the sample free response questions for Unit 3, which are linked up right here. Again, I would recommend that you go through and try to answer them on your own. And then once you do that, use the scoring guidelines that are included in the document to grade your paper and kind of figure out what else you need to know and study. Next, look through the rest of the slides for Unit 3. Be sure to watch the linked videos, particularly in content areas that you're weak in. Look over any sample calculations. There aren't many in this unit because it's mostly about cell communication, and go from there. If you have additional time, I've linked the complete set of Unit 3 student notes right here. Take a minute and look at those as well. Here are the most important things to know from Unit 3. Number one, you need to be able to describe examples of direct, local, and long-distance cell signaling. Number two, you need to be able to identify and explain the things that are happening during each of the three main stages of the cell signaling process. Those three steps are reception, transduction, and response. Next, be able to explain how the signal transduction pathway amplifies or spreads the signal throughout the cell. Be able to describe at least 5 components of the non-specific immune system, things like the skin. Be able to describe the signaling processes that occur during both cell-mediated and antibody-mediated immune responses. Make sure that you can describe the purposes of both of those processes. Again, cell-mediated and antibody-mediated immune responses. Be able to describe the differences between a primary and a secondary immune response. And make sure that you can explain the importance of the memory cells to that secondary immune response. You also need to be able to describe the processes involved in the release and the transport and the reception of a hormone, to describe the differences in how protein and steroid hormones work and function. You need to be able to give examples of negative feedback loops and positive feedback loops. You need to know the basic structure of a neuron and the events that occur during an action potential. You also need to be able to describe the transmission of an electrical signal across a synapse via the release of neurotransmitters. You need to be able to describe the structure and the purposes of a reflex arc. This unit also goes a bit into the cell signal, so you need to be able to describe the stages of the cell signal, the events that occur during each stage of mitosis, the role of checkpoints in regulating the cell cycle, and finally, the role of cyclins in the regulation of the cell cycle. So those are the major topics from Unit 3. Make sure that you can do all of those things. That pretty much covers Unit 3.